I never thought love could end like this. Not with tears streaming down my cheeks, my hands trembling as I stared at the test that changed everything. 2 pink lines. I sat on the edge of my bed, the air around me heavy, almost suffocating. The hum of the ceiling fan did little to drown out the sound of my own heartbeat. My name is Mira, and at 24, I thought I knew what it meant to love and be loved. Until that morning. I stared at the test again, as if the result might somehow change if I looked hard enough. But it didn't. I was pregnant. With Ethan's baby. We'd been together for 3 years, 3 years of laughter, midnight talks, shared dreams, and promises whispered under moonlight. He always said he wanted a family one day, but one day never felt this close. Never felt this real. When I called him and told him to come over, I thought maybe he'd smile, hold me, and say, "We'll figure this out together." I was wrong. He arrived 30 minutes later, wearing his usual black hoodie and the nervous half-smile I used to find so adorable. "What's going on, Mira? You sounded weird on the phone." I handed him the test, no words, just silence thick enough to choke on. His eyes darted between my face and the small stick in my hand. I saw the color drain from his cheeks. "Wait," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You're pregnant." I nodded. He took a step back, rubbing his temples like he was trying to erase the thought. How far along are you?" "About 5 weeks." The next few seconds felt endless. I wanted him to smile, to hug me, to say something, anything. Instead, he sighed. "Mira, this can't be happening." My heart dropped. "Ethan, what do you mean?" "I mean, we're not ready for this. You know my job isn't stable, and you're still paying off your student loans. We're barely managing rent. How can we bring a baby into this?" His words stung, each one sharper than the last. "It's not just my baby, Ethan." He looked away, avoiding my eyes. "I know. But maybe we should think about our options." "Options?" I repeated. "You mean, getting rid of it?" He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. That night, I cried until my body gave up. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep, the place where broken dreams live. Ethan didn't stay. He said he needed time to think. I told myself he'd come back. That love doesn't just vanish because of fear. But as the days passed, his calls became shorter, his visits less frequent, his messages colder. One night, after 3 days of silence, I went to his apartment. I still remember the look on his face when he opened the door, startled, guilty. Like he hadn't expected me to show up. "Mira, I was going to call you," he said, running a hand through his hair. "When?" I asked. "When you finished pretending I don't exist?" He sighed, stepping aside to let me in. The air smelled faintly of beer and cigarette smoke, something he'd promised he quit. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I don't know what to do. I'm scared." I crossed my arms. "You think I'm not?" "I'm terrified, Ethan. But you're the one I thought I could lean on." He sat down on the couch, elbows on his knees. "I can't do this, Mira. Not now. I'm not ready to be a dad." My heart cracked. "So you're just leaving?" He looked up at me, eyes red. "I don't want to ruin your life." "You're not ruining it, Ethan. You're part of it. Or at least you were." He shook his head. "You deserve someone better than me. Someone who won't mess this up." Those were his last words to me that night. And maybe forever. The days that followed were a blur of nausea, tears, and sleepless nights. I quit my part-time job at the cafe because I couldn't keep pretending to smile at customers when my whole world was collapsing. My mom was gone, she passed when I was 18, and my dad lived 3 towns away, remarried to someone who didn't even know I existed. So I was alone. Completely alone. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, one hand on my stomach, wondering what kind of person I was bringing into the world. Would my baby ever forgive me for the world it was born into? For the father who walked away? One evening, I got a message from Ethan. I think it's best if we don't see each other for a while. I'm sorry, Mira. Please take care of yourself. I stared at that message for what felt like an eternity. Then I deleted it. Months passed. My body changed. My clothes didn't fit. My emotions lived in a constant storm between heartbreak and hope. There were nights when I dreamt of him the way he used to trace his fingers on my back, whispering how much he loved me. I'd wake up reaching for a ghost. But slowly, something inside me shifted. The pain didn't vanish, but it became quieter. Every time I felt the baby kick, I realized I wasn't truly alone. I had someone now, someone who needed me more than anyone else ever had. I started working again, this time at a bookstore. The owner, an old woman named Clara, hired me without asking too many questions. Everyone deserves a new start, she said. Every morning, I'd open the shop, breathe in the smell of paper and ink, and tell myself that maybe life wasn't over, maybe it was just different now. One afternoon, about 6 months into my pregnancy, Ethan showed up. I froze when I saw him standing at the bookstore door, hands stuffed into his jacket pockets. He looked thinner, tired. His eyes darted to my belly before meeting mine. "Hi," he said softly. I swallowed hard. "Hi. I heard from one of your friends that you work here. I just wanted to see you." I crossed my arms, unsure whether to scream or cry. "Why now?" He hesitated. "I've been thinking a lot. About everything. I made a mistake." I felt tears prick the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "You didn't just make a mistake, Ethan. You walked away when I needed you most." He nodded, guilt flooding his face. "I know. I panicked. I was scared. But I never stopped thinking about you." I laughed bitterly. "You think that changes anything?" He looked down. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And if you'll let me, maybe I can help. I want to be there, for the baby." My heart twisted. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But I had spent too many nights picking up the pieces of what he left behind. "You don't get to walk back into my life when it's convenient," I said, voice trembling. "You left me to face this alone." He nodded again, eyes glistening. "I understand." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small envelope, and placed it on the counter. "It's not much, but it's something. For you. For the baby." I stared at it but didn't touch it. Then he whispered, "You deserve better than what I gave you." And just like that, he turned and walked out. That was the last time I saw him. A few weeks later, I gave birth to a baby girl. I named her Lila, after my mother's favorite flower, a name that meant strength and beauty all at once. When I held her for the first time, all the pain, all the tears, all the sleepless nights, they melted into something new. Something pure. She looked up at me with wide, curious eyes, and I realized that maybe love doesn't always come from the people we expect. Sometimes, it grows from the ashes of what we lose. Life wasn't easy. There were days when I couldn't afford formula, when I worked extra shifts just to keep the lights on. But there were also mornings when Lila's laughter filled the room, and I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. Stories about hope, about women who found strength in heartbreak. And every word I wrote felt like a piece of healing. Sometimes, when the nights were quiet, I'd think about Ethan. Wonder where he was, if he ever thought about us. I didn't hate him anymore. I just hoped he'd learn something about love, about courage, about what it means to stay. Because love isn't about promises whispered in the dark. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. Years passed. Lila grew into a bright, curious little girl who loved asking questions about everything. "Mommy," she asked one day, "why don't I have a daddy like the other kids?" I knelt beside her, brushing her hair away from her face. "You have me, sweetheart. And I have you. That's enough, isn't it?" She smiled, nodding, her tiny arms wrapping around my neck. "You're the best mommy in the world." And in that moment, I knew she was right. Sometimes, life breaks you just to rebuild you stronger. I still walk past the cafe where Ethan and I used to meet. The same corner table where he told me about his dreams. The same place where I first fell in love. I don't avoid it anymore. I just smile, not because I miss him, but because that love, even in its ending, taught me something real. It taught me that I could survive. It taught me that sometimes, losing someone is the only way to find yourself. And every time I look at my daughter's eyes so full of light, so full of life, I know that even though Ethan walked away, I gained something far more beautiful. I found myself again.